welcome to our Wednesday evening Yin Practice. My name is Rachel with the Bloomin' Witch, and I just thought it was important for us to gather this evening and do a little bit of grounding practice just to help us continue getting through our week with as much ease and grace as possible. So when you are ready, go ahead and get into a comfortable position. You can start lying down on your back, or you can come to a comfortable seated position like I'm in, and allow your hands to rest on your knees. And let's take a breath. Allow your eyes to softly close. And with each breath you take, you notice your belly rise and fall. Begin to consciously relax every muscle throughout your body. Letting the shoulders relax. Unclench your jaw. Let your fingers and toes become soft. And continue observing your inhale and your exhale. So keep in mind as you practice this evening, it's important to listen to your body. If something hurts, please don't do it. But be open to exploring your body and the space within your body. And if it feels appropriate to move more deeply into a pose, take it slow and gently. And if you feel the need to back out of a pose, do so slowly and gently. So for now, we're just continuing to relax and settle and anchor down into our bodies. Letting everything around us slow down as well. Tuning into your environment and then allowing those sounds to fade off into the distance. And taking this opportunity to unplug from just the stress of day-to-day life, but unplug from the extra stress we're all feeling right now. And just be here. So as we prepare for our Yin practice, it's important to remember a few things. First thing is that this is a passive practice, and that means that we are not actively engaging the body, but moving more into a passive and relaxed state. We're holding for time, so we'll probably be holding poses for around 3 minutes at a time in each pose today. And then we do our best to remain as still as possible. So the reason we put these 3 things into practice is that it takes the connective tissues, it takes our fascia more time to become mobile, to stretch. So you can take this practice up to whatever level of intensity that your body needs today, making sure that it feels accessible and sustainable and tolerable. So the sensation you're going for should feel more like a dull ache. If there's anything sharp or stabbing, if there's anything that feels burning, anything that feels numb or begins to tingle, those are sensations that are best to avoid. So let's take one more deep breath in. And exhale all the way out. Now, whether you are seated or whether you are lying down, make some small movements to start. Maybe wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, circle hands and circle feet, And then let your head move a little bit. You could take it side to side or move it in circles. And then you might like to lift your arms overhead and take a full body stretch, reaching through hands and reaching through feet. And for those of you on your back, maybe hug your knees into your chest. And then roll to your side and slowly press yourself upwards towards a comfortable seat. So once you arrive, place your palms together at your heart and we'll take 3 deep breaths. So with your inhale, begin to lift your arms all the way up overhead. And then exhale, let your arms fall down by your sides. We take another inhale, the arms lift. Exhale, we release. One more round, we breathe in. And exhale. Maybe take a moment, roll the shoulders back. And roll them forward. We'll begin in butterfly. So let's bring the bottoms of our feet together and allow your knees to open. So traditionally, or I should say in a more traditional yang style practice or active practice, we would often bring our heels really close in towards the body. So what I'm going to have you do instead is bring the heels a little further away so that when you look down in this empty space, you should see the shape of a diamond. So arms can rest somewhere along the legs, knees, shins, feet. Let's take a deep breath in, just finding a little bit of length. And then exhale, very gently begin to fold forward. So for the purposes of yin, it's okay to allow the chin to drop towards the chest. It's okay for you to allow your shoulders to sort of roll forward a bit. And allow gravity to do a lot of the work for you. So rather than using your elbows, for instance, to push your knees down, just keep everything a little softer, everything a little more relaxed. And it's a good opportunity to close your eyes, tune in, and just be still. Since we are about halfway through, it's a good time to check in once again. Feel into all the sensations the body is feeling. Notice any changes in your breath. Take one more full breath in and a deep breath out. And just as slowly as you moved into your pose, begin to lift out of your pose. And then use your hands to guide your knees together and just hold here for a moment, feeling the rebound. Let your legs and hips soften a bit. So moving into dragonfly, you can open your legs nice and wide into a V. Again, you're taking that level of sensation right up to the edge where you definitely are feeling a stretch, but again, it should feel tolerable and sustainable. So you can keep the feet relaxed, let your hands rest on the floor, and then once again, we breathe in, and then exhale, slowly folding down towards the mat. So if you have blankets or yoga blocks, you could always decide to stack a couple of blocks together, maybe a blanket on top of those, and maybe rest the arms on the blocks. Otherwise, again, we're relying on gravity to just inch ourselves down with intention and awareness. And again, you might take another breath and notice if there is any resistance in the body. And if there is, does it feel appropriate to work with that resistance? Or perhaps back off a little bit. Let's take another deep breath in and exhale. Taking your hands to the backs of your knees and very gently bring in one leg at a time. You might like to step your feet about hip distance apart and very gently rock your knees from side to side. And we'll finish up with one more forward fold. So forward folds are naturally very restorative and calming for our nervous systems, and I think many of us right now are either in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, so the forward folds can help send us into a more parasympathetic response, which is the resting or calming state. So we'll transition into either one of two positions. You can come into child's pose, beginning on all fours, and deciding if you'd like to take your knees wider apart and feet together, or perhaps bring your knees together more closely. Slowly allow your hips to rest back towards your heels. You might stack your palms in front of your body and then rest your head down, or perhaps bring your head directly down to the floor. Now, for those of you that have any issues in the knees and child's pose does not feel very accessible, you may come into caterpillar, extending both legs straight out in front of you, and it's similar to dragonfly, except that rather than having the legs wide, our legs are closer in. And again, you gently motion the body down towards the legs into your forward fold. So decide which of those two options feels like the most ideal option for your body in practice at the moment, and then go ahead and allow yourself to settle in. Take a deep breath in and exhale all the way out. And if you're in a seated forward fold, feel free to lift out of your seat, maybe bounce out your legs a little bit. If you're coming out of child's pose, some of you might like to come back to all fours and stretch out through one leg at a time. You could also briefly transition through downward dog to help stretch out the backs of the legs a little bit from having the knees bent for so long. So we'll all come back down onto the knees, or make our way to our knees, moving towards dragon pose. So from your tabletop position, take your right foot and step it forward towards a lunge. Now, since this is a yin practice, it's actually okay for the knee to come past the foot as long as it is not causing any pain in the knee. In a more yang style practice, we typically like to align the knee over top of the heel. But again, for the sake of yin, as long as it's not causing any pain or extreme discomfort and feels safe to your body, you can allow the knee to come forward a little bit more. So if you have a hard time with your hands coming to the mat, another option is to rest the hands on top of the right knee, or if you have yoga blocks, you can always place the blocks underneath of either hand. So we'll just hold for some time here. Keeping in mind, if you need to come out of your pose earlier, please come out slowly and carefully. Every now and then you might just want to check in with the body again, noticing the level of sensation your body is experiencing. If you'd like to take it a little further or a little deeper, or if you'd like to back off a bit more. And for those of you that would like to try a slightly different variation on this pose, you can take your right arm and right hand inside of your right leg and maybe move your right leg over a couple of inches towards the right. And you have the option to stay up on the hands or maybe lower down to one elbow, maybe two. Again, you're just feeling it out and noticing what feels tolerable, sustainable, accessible. And let's take one more inhale. If you're down on the forearms, press up onto your hands. And let's start to shift our hips back and stretch out our front leg. You might Place that right hand outside of the leg once more. And when you're ready, glide your right heel back, returning to all fours. We'll then step our left foot forward into our lunge, and you can sort of help your foot up there as needed. You can adjust the placement of your back knee as well. You can take it further back. You can bring it in a little closer, move the hips a little further back. So just sort of give yourself a few moments to settle into a space that is going to be ideal for you. And remember that you have the option to keep the hands on the ground or use yoga blocks, or perhaps even bring the hands to the top of the left thigh. And then for our second variation option, you might decide to move your left arm inside of your left leg, perhaps moving your left foot over towards the left a couple of inches, and then choosing whether you'd like to remain on the hands, maybe lower down to one elbow. Again, if you have blocks, you could place the blocks underneath of your forearms. Maybe a second elbow drops. And then allow your head to relax. And if you are down on your arms, let's press up slowly onto our hands. You might like to move that left arm back outside of your leg, then as slowly as you can move, start to shift your hips back and stretch into your front leg gently. Let's bring our left knee back towards tabletop. So lowering down towards belly and chest as we transition towards Sphinx pose. So you actually want to keep yourself propped up on your forearms. So your elbows are about lined up right underneath the shoulders. So again, for the sake of yin, typically we would always like to lift ourselves out of the shoulder blades, but as long long as it doesn't cause any pain or feels unsafe, you can allow yourself to sort of hammock right down between the shoulder blades. If you'd like to give a gentle stretch towards the space between the shoulder blades and up through the back of the neck, you might lower your chin towards your chest. But if you'd like to keep the chin elevated and keep the gaze forward, that is fine as well. So this pose can naturally cause compression through the lower back. So if you do find you need support for the lower back, you can either try just tucking the belly in or pulling the belly in towards the spine a little bit, or if you have a pillow or a yoga bolster, you could even slide that underneath the upper belly to help support and maybe remove some of that compression, add a little more length down through the lumbar and sacrum. And arriving at our halfway point, your second option is to press into seal pose. So to do that, you'll keep your hands down on the mat, but you'll begin to lift your elbows up, allowing the arms to become straighter. If you try it out and then you feel like that's not really a healthy option for your lower back, if it's painful or you just don't like it, feel free to lower elbows back down towards the mat in Sphinx. Let's take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, slowly lower all the way down. You can stack your forearms in front of you and let your head rest. Maybe open up the legs a little wider in crocodile pose. Take a breath. And then you can basically stay in the same position but roll onto your back. So, finishing with a reclining twist. So we'll have a couple of options here as well. We'll first start by opening our arms out. Now, if you have any lower back issues, you might find more support by keeping your legs stacked. So as your knees drop over to the right side, you'll notice one knee is stacked on top of the other. For those of you who like to experience the pose a little differently, and it might intensify it a bit as well, try wrapping your left leg over and around your right leg. And then we'll lower knees down to the right in twisted root pose. Let's briefly check in, noticing where you might be holding tension. Is there some way for you to relax and release more deeply? We'll take one more deep breath in. And exhale all the way out. Using your next breath to slowly lift your hips and legs out of your twist. Readjusting yourself towards the center of your mat. We'll just take a pause here. Just noticing the left side and the right side and any differences. And then when you feel ready for the other side, again, you have the option to let both knees fall to the left with the knees stacked on top of one another. Or you might like to wrap the right leg over and around the left leg first, and then allow your knees to lower and drop towards your left. might decide to check in briefly, noticing if and where any adjustments could be made to help your body settle into a deeper space of ease. And take one more breath. Use your next breath to gently ease out of your pose. If you have the legs wrapped, allow the legs to release. Both feet resting on the ground. And then you might decide to hug your knees towards your chest for just a moment or two. You can wrap your arms around your shins or even hold the backs of your legs. Remaining on your back, begin to extend your legs out in front of you on your mat. Allow your arms to rest a few inches from the sides of your body. And we begin to prepare for our final resting pose, Shavasana. free to stay in your resting pose for as long as you'd like. For those of you ready to return, start to just ease yourself back towards awareness. Moving fingers and moving toes. And then roll to your side, support your head, draw your knees towards your chest. And then after another moment or two, begin to rise towards a comfortable seat. And let's all place our palms together at our hearts in Anjali Mudra to seal our practice. This time of grounding and connection on our mats. And we bow our heads towards our heart in gratitude. The ability to be here, to come together and practice, to move our bodies, and to learn how to be still. And bow your head to your heart. May we all know love. May we all know peace. May we all know kindness. And may these things always flow to and from us. Namaste. So thank you everyone for joining me today. I'll be back at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time on Friday evening. We'll be practicing a more gentle but still sort of upbeat practice just to get some energy moving after many of us have been stuck in our homes all week long. So I hope you'll join me then, and I will see you Friday. Bye.